Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No, I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Giving the Panama Canal is why Jimmy Carter lost the election, in my opinion.
But Trump there saying that he would not rule out using military force to retake it is not something that should be treated as with bluster. I mean, Trump is coming into this White House and is intentionally staffing his administration with aides who will not block what he wants to do or what he ultimately seeks. There were many instances in his first term where he wanted to do something, but advisors either convinced him not to or Republican lawmakers did. That is not going to be the same Washington that we are encountering in 13 days from now when Trump takes office. So I would treat everything he said there quite seriously.
It is remarkable, somebody who is 2 weeks from resuming the presidency of the United States, who, whether you voted for him or not, whether you like him or not, just engineered a remarkable historical political comeback, is so whiny and so full of grievances. Now, that is Donald Trump's trademark. That has been his trademark since he came down that escalator. He uses grievance to keep his people together, to keep his base together, and to keep his team loyal.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and Donald Trump is just days away from taking office again. And instead of showing leadership, he's back at it with the same old nonsense and grievances. His press conference at Mar-a-Lago wasn't just a disaster. It was an absolute alarm, a warning of what's to come.
One of the biggest things that stood out to me from that press conference, from moments when Trump got out there before he even started taking questions, is the level of anger.
He's really agitated.
Well, we know why. He made it quite clear a few moments in. It's two things. It's his legal issues overall, but it's the sentencing that he is facing on Friday that so far is still, Judge Merchan has denied efforts to delay it. His attorneys are still working to do so. And two, it's this report by Jack Smith.
Because I did nothing wrong. By the way, I did nothing, absolutely nothing wrong. If I did something wrong, I wouldn't be standing here right now because I've won all these cases. Nobody's ever won so many cases as I have against the Justice Department. I mean, Jack Smith had cases all over the place. He's a mean guy. He's a mean, nasty guy. His picture was perfect because you look at his picture, you say, that's a bad guy with his robe, his purple robe. And he executes people. He shouldn't be allowed to execute people because he'll execute everybody. He's a nut job.
This man isn't focused on governing or uniting the country. He's focused on stoking his grievances, rewriting history, and distracting us from the chaos he's going to unleash.
He wants all gas heaters out of your homes and apartments. He wants them to be replaced by essentially electric heaters. I don't know what it is with electric. This guy loves electric. We're going to be ending the electric car mandate quickly, by the way. They want to do no water comes out of the shower. It goes drip, drip, drip. So what happens? You're in the shower 10 times as long, you know. They also want to go back, and they have already started that, to when you buy a faucet, no water comes out because they want to preserve. Even in areas that have so much water, you don't know what to do. It's called rain. Comes down from heaven.
That was a trailer. That was an hour-long trailer for the next 4 years, in that he tells a lot of lies. He hedges, he exaggerates and hypes a lot of things, but he also made a ton of news there.
Let's start with his threats against Panama and Greenland, our allies, by the way. When asked if he would rule out military or economic force in those places, he flat out said no. No hesitation, no consideration. For Panama, he called the canal vital to the United States, claiming it's being abused and falsely accusing China of running it. Let me be clear, the Panama Canal is facing a crisis, but it's not because of China or mismanagement. It's because of its severe drought caused by climate change. Water levels are at record lows, forcing fewer ships to pass and driving up tolls. This isn't some grand conspiracy, it's a logistical nightmare that Panama is struggling to manage. And let's not forget, during Trump's own term, China gained control of ports near the canal. That's right. The very thing he's using to justify threats of military action is something he let happen. But instead of owning up to his failures, he's doubling down and spinning lies to fire up his base. It's not about solving problems. It's about stoking outrage, and his supporters fall for it every time. Greenland is no different. Trump's obsession with Greenland started years ago when he tried to buy it like it was some piece of real estate. Denmark told him no, and now he's back threatening to use military force to claim it. Greenland isn't just some frozen wasteland. It's critical for NATO, serving as a key outpost against Russian aggression in the Arctic. Weakening NATO by targeting Greenland doesn't help America. It helps Russia. And let's not kid ourselves. Everything Trump does somehow ends up helping Russia.
We're going to change because we do most of the work there and it's ours. We're going to be changing sort of the opposite of Biden, where he's closing everything up, essentially getting rid of $50 to $60 trillion worth of assets. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
He called it a beautiful name and said it was appropriate. Appropriate for what? His ego? Renaming a body of water doesn't solve any real problems. It doesn't address climate change, trade imbalances, or immigration. It's a distraction, plain and simple. And it makes us look foolish on the global stage. Trump's antics didn't stop with his foreign policy delusions. The press conference was filled with whining and baseless attacks. He lashes out at ongoing investigations, calling them witch hunts and railing against prosecutors. He claimed the election was too big to rig, but still managed to question the results. This is classic Trump. Even when he wins, he sows doubt to keep his base angry and engaged. It's all about controlling the narrative. He also complained about Biden's energy policies, accusing him of forcing Americans to replace gas heaters with electric ones and making absurd claims about low-flow shower heads and dishwashers. According to Trump, these policies are ruining the country, even though there's little evidence to support his claims. This is the Trump playbook. Fabricate an enemy, exaggerate the stakes, and position himself as the savior. It's not about facts, it's about fear. Meanwhile, the real challengers are being ignored. In Panama, rising tolls and restricted ship traffic are disrupting global trade. Mexico is building a railway to bypass the canal altogether, creating a new route for goods to flow between the Atlantic and Pacific. And Nicaragua is proposing a canal of its own, backed by China. If that project ever moves forward, it won't be a trade route, it'll be a strategic advantage for China and Russia. But instead of addressing these challenges, Trump is making empty threats and distracting us with pure garbage. Canada wasn't spared Trump's idiotic rhetoric either. While our neighbors to the north navigate a political crisis, Trump threw fuel on the fire, hinting at economic leverage and accusing them of taking advantage of the United States. This is the kind of rhetoric that stains alliances and creates instability, not solutions. Canada is one of our closest allies and largest trading partners, and Trump's willingness to escalate tensions shows just how little he understands. Let's not overlook the bigger picture here. Trump's actions and rhetoric consistently align with the interests of authoritarian regimes like Russia and China. His threats against Greenland weaken NATO. His saber-rattling over Panama creates openings for Chinese and Russian influence. And while he's distracting us with these stunts, China and Russia are working together to build new trade and military routes, like the proposed Canal in Nicaragua. These moves threaten U.S. interests, but Trump always is too busy playing the victim. And then there's Elon Musk, who's quietly pulling the strings behind the scenes. Musk isn't just a tech mogul. He's a global power broker with ties to Russia and China. He's restricted the use of Starlink in Ukraine, favoring Russian military operations. He's working hand in hand with authoritarian regimes, supporting far-right movements in Europe and consolidating his control over global communication. Musk is the real puppet master here, and Trump is more than happy to play along because he needs Musk's influence and resources to stay relevant. These patterns of interference aren't coincidences. They're part of a larger strategy to destabilize democracies and consolidate power for the few at the expense of the rest of us. And Trump is a willing participant. His Project 2025 plan lays it all out. Authoritarian policies like internment camps, gutting federal oversight, and consolidating power in the executive branch. This isn't about making America great again. It's about power and control. And while Trump distracts his base with grievances and lies, Musk and others are working behind the scenes to reshape the world in their image. So what's the takeaway? Trump's press conference wasn't just a preview of the next 4 years. It was a wake-up call. A wake-up call to the dangers of grievance politics, authoritarian ambitions, and the erosion of democracy. Trump and Musk aren't looking out for America. They're looking out for themselves. And their grievances are about to become all of our reality. Trump's message was clear. He's not here to fix problems. He's here to create them. His refusal to rule out military action against Panama and Greenland, his absurd plan to rename the Gulf of Mexico, and his attacks on Canada all serve one purpose: distraction. He wants to keep us focused on the noise while the real damage happens behind the scenes. We cannot afford to let that happen. The stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just about Trump's ego or Musk's ambitions. It's about the future of our country and our democracy, and it's up to us to stay informed, hold leaders accountable, and fight for the truth. If we don't, we're not just risking the next 4 years, we're risking everything, and that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.